Good afternoon, Tiegerman parents, families, friends, and of course to our beloved students. If you're watching, greetings. My name is Dr. Jeremy Tiegerman, and I am the director of Tiegerman Schools. I'm coming to you today from my office. Today is Friday, June 12th, 2020, and is the next portion in a series of videos called the State of the Union. I want to just first thank all of our essential workers, frontline workers, for all that you are doing to help keep us safe. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I also appreciate all the feedback that we've been getting from our parents, families, friends, students, and staff. Should any of you have any feedback that you want to share with us, and I always appreciate the good stuff, but should you want to give us some things that we have to work on, that is okay too. Please forward those feelings and thoughts on things to me at social@tiegerman.org. As of today, we are completing week 12 of remote learning and 10 and a half weeks of teletherapy. I want to give a big applause and thank you, and you all should really just give yourself a pat on the backs, because parents, the families, the students, the staff, all of you have worked together to try to make, to the best of your ability, remote instruction operate as best as possible. So I just want to thank you for that. I know that this model will never, ever, ever compare to the support and instruction that we provide your children in the physical space on a daily basis. But we will try our best to meet your child's individual needs as best as possible in the remote world. Today, I can confirm that our last day of school for the 2019-2020 school year will be Friday, June 26th, and that summer session will commence on Monday, July 6th. That program, which is a 30-day program, will go through, starting from July 6th, will go through the summer to Friday, August 14th. Reminder for UPK parents, you do not have a summer session, so your final day is Friday, June 26th. For most of us last week, it was just like any other remote learning week, and seemed probably to be just a relatively benign, similar week to the last 5 or 6 weeks. However, something spectacular, and this could be viewed either positively or negatively, depending on how you view it. Something spectacular took place out of nowhere. And it took place last Friday night, June the 5th at 6:30 p.m. that sent the entire special education community in the state of New York scrambling. This triggered a very busy weekend for Dr. T, Dr. Rad, and I, due to the ambiguity of the governor's executive order. As probably many of you read it, you couldn't make sense of it either. But we were also trying to determine if we would be ready to open, if we had to on July 6th. So it was a very hectic several days, and there's definitely are a great deal of number of factors that will be contributing to, whether we open. There were a great number of factors about how this whole thing played out, and probably how this whole thing will play out. But even though I have a kind of a feeling of in which direction Tiegerman Schools will be going early next week, I'm going to be holding off on making that decision, okay, until we have Dr. T, Dr. Rad, and I sit for an alliance meeting early on Monday. You may ask, what is an alliance meeting? Alliance meeting is a group of directors and same types of programs, as we talked about previously, the 4410s, the preschools, the 853s, the school age programs. We will be meeting all together, and we hopefully will be standing in solidarity about a decision that we will make agencies statewide. And we will be having that on Monday afternoon. And after that, then I believe probably Tuesday or Wednesday, you will have communicated to you what we plan to do for July, about July, summer 2020. Now, while I kind of have a feeling of what we're going to do, and I said to you, I'm not going to be announcing it yet because things definitely can change. There are definitely a couple things that I want you to be aware of that certainly can impact whether we're going to open, okay? And this determination will be based on a couple factors. One, transportation issues will be huge. These are transportation issues for New York City Department of Education, or New York City Department of Education students, as well as for our Long Island students, which is handled by Nassau County. Another thing that it will depend on, our ability to follow the New York Department of Health guidance document for reopening programs, special education programs. You probably saw this last week. I made sure that our principals forward to all of our staff and to our families the guidance document that we would need to follow in order to open up, should we be directed to open up on July 6th. In addition to this, we also wanted your input. Your input will be very, very important into whether we open or remain in remote for our summer session. So I just want to thank all of you for participating in that survey that we asked you to participate in a couple of days ago. We contacted you and you very proactively responded about whether, and again, I just want everyone to know, it's okay, regardless of whatever side you stand on. Some parents were very eager to get their children back to school in the physical space as soon as possible. They feel like the remote program is not working. And other parents feel like maybe the remote is working pretty well and are concerned about sending their children on buses, and they're not sure if it's still going to be safe out there with COVID. So there's nothing wrong with however you answered. We just need to know numbers-wise where our families stand. And that data will be very, very helpful in advocating for all of you and taking a stand as an agency, along with the other agencies, about what is the best move at this point in time. July to open, physical space, or remain in remote, or wait till September. But we will forward all this information to the powers that be that oversee us, and we will wait back for their determination of what we should do. And I will communicate that to you as soon as I can, which should probably be, again, Tuesday or Wednesday. I want to just go back to, we've discussed it several times before, we've discussed transition plans. And I'm going to be repeating some of the things, but there'll be some updates to this. So Dr. Tiegerman, you are aware of this, already charged me several weeks ago and probably several months ago with the responsibility, once we went to remote, that eventually when we return, we're going to have to be ready to go. So whenever that time is, she charged me with doing it, and it was my responsibility that all the buildings needed to be ready to go. Okay? I then charged my principals and directed them to start working on plans. And in addition to creating plans, I directed them to create task force teams. And the task force teams, once the plans were completed, submitted to me, I reviewed them. Once they were approved, then they would go back to the task force committees, and then their tasks would be to review the plans, to operationalize it, to create policy, create timelines. When is this stuff going to be implemented? And identify professional development. If our staff, if our families need development on or guidance on how we're going to open and do that in a safe manner, we want to identify that. So all of these things are being considered. Okay. So what I can tell you now is that the principals this week submitted all of their plans. So I have one for Glen Cove, I have one for the middle school, I have one for the high school, and one for Tiegerman School at Woodside. And all of them were submitted to me. I reviewed all of them, and then I pushed it back. Once I got the approval from Dr. T and Dr. Ed, pushed it back to the principals, and now their task forces have those plans. It is their job, and I've instructed the principals several days ago that their teams have until the week early the early part of the week of June 22nd. That is our last week of school. But they have until that time, it's pretty much about a week and a couple days to finalize these plans, as we talked about, operationalize them. And then the importance of, and I really want to give them as much time, but we may not have time if we are directed to open in July. And again, not determined at this point in time if that's going to happen, but if that were the case, I would like to have enough time to review what the task force teams did, then forward it out to all of our staff and all to our families. I want all of you to be on the same page and feel comfortable about, for our staff, returning to the building and working there, and for you parents and families, and for our students, returning to the building and being educated in. Okay, so that's kind of the timeline that we have. June 22nd, June 23rd, I hope to have these plans back, ready to go, to be shared with all of you. A couple of brief updates from buildings, as we do every week. Glen Cove Preschool and Elementary School, overseen by the incomparable Mrs. Karen Katzman. She's working on summer programming, virtual field trips, talent show. Preschool graduation for 4-year-olds is June 24th and June 25th for UPK. Also, Mrs. Karen Katzman wants me to alert all 5th graders, our students. I know you're very, very excited about it and you're wondering, and their families, when will graduation be? We are going to have the graduation ceremony over the summer. Whether that's going to be in the physical space or in virtual, we will let you know, but your graduation, 5th grade graduation, will be during the summer session. Middle school, operated by the fabulous Mrs. Kristen Lyons in Glen Cove. She wanted me to remind all of our students and families that graduation is June 23rd at 10 a.m. This is graduation for our 8th graders moving on to 9th grade in Richmond Hill. They are also continuing to work on summer session activities such as a virtual field day, dance-a-thon, Spirit Week, Alumni Day, and an art show. Information on these events will be forthcoming. The high school in Richmond Hill, supervised by the great Lauren Leonardi, wanted me to share with all of you that on Friday, June 19th, we'll be having a virtual Alumni Day at 1 p.m. and a virtual fashion night. This is one of our greatest events. Unfortunately, we can't be together to do this, but it will be virtual at 6 p.m. Both of these events, again, June 19th, 1 p.m. for Alumni Day, 6 p.m. for the fashion night. On Thursday, June 25th, we unfortunately, again, another one of our favorite, most memorable events is a prom. This is so important for our students. And it has to be at this point in time virtual. So I hopefully we will make it the best, most memorable virtual prom that we can ever have. So those who are participating in that is Thursday, June 25th. Friday, June 26th will be a graduation ceremony. We had originally planned that this was only going to be virtual. We have backtracked and rethought that, and we will be having the option of having it in the physical space for those who want it, and virtual for those who still do not feel comfortable coming to the physical space. So the directions are that they will take place on Friday, June 26th, in the physical space in Richmond Hill. A memo, an important memo that all of you who determine or are deciding that you're going to be showing up for this will be forwarded to families today regarding important social distancing and population density guidelines that must and need to be followed if you determine that or you decide that you're going to be showing up. The graduation will also be recorded, and for those who do not want to show up for the live graduation, that recorded graduation will be incorporated into the virtual graduation being held on the 26th at 8 p.m. Also, Mrs. Leonardi wanted me to share with you that on the 26th at the high school, we'll be hosting a virtual graduate social hour at 3 p.m. Lastly, the great Nina DeVita at the Tiegerman School at Woodside. Mrs. DeVita wants me to share with all of our students and families that her staff is continuing to work on virtual activities for all of our students, and they are currently in the process of contacting all our families to schedule an end of the year celebration via Zoom on Friday, June 26th. Thank you, principals, for sharing. And now we have reached the moment I know that you've all been waiting for. Tiegerman Times goes live. Who am I going to be interviewing today? This is a very special guest, so you'll just have to wait and see. I want to first thank Josie Erlenbach for joining us last week. Josie, you did such an amazing job. We were so happy to see you and see how you were doing. So thank you again, and we hope to see you soon. Keep us posted on how things are going at home. This next guest, I don't want to give it away. I'm not even going to give the gender. So this next guest is special to all of us at Tiegerman. And this person has been with the agency from the beginning in 1985, has a child with special needs, is one of the greatest advocates for all of our families and our students, and is one of the most wonderful, selfless employees that we've ever had at Tiegerman. We are lucky to have her join us here today. Not sure if that gave it away. Drum roll, please. I'm going to bring her up. Wow, what a great surprise. I have two Davises here today.
Yes.
This is the way it's supposed to be, man. It's really good to see you too, Jeremy.
It's great to have you both with me. So, Toya, I know this is a silly question, but this is a question that maybe some people who don't know you, because everyone really does know you, but it's good for some people to get a sense of historically kind of, how long you've been with us and tell me a little bit about your story. But presently, what's your position at Tiegerman, and how long have you been employed there?
Okay. I am the parent liaison. I have been there over 30 years. I watched you grow up.
Yes, you did. I had a lot more hair then.
But part of my duties, I'm also a member of the board, but part of my duties is I attend CSC meetings. I also do the transition training with the students. Sometimes I do tours. I wear my hats, and I'm divided between the three schools. I'm at the middle school, I'm at the Woodside school, and I'm also at the high school.
You are tracking a lot of miles, going
Yes.
back and forth. You know what, Toya, you bring up something, and I think it's important because, many of us have seen you around the building, and you've been such a warm presence and so important to us all for all these years, and parents definitely know about your role as far as advocating. But I'm not sure a lot of people know that you are on the board, like you mentioned, the board of directors. And I think
Yes.
that's really important for our families to know, and for our staff, maybe they're not aware of that. So could you just share briefly, you don't have to go too long about what your role is on the board?
Well, my role is I'm part of the decision-making issues that go within the school. I sometimes have to recuse myself because I am an employee. So when there are things before the board that come up that I would benefit from, I do not vote on those things. But it is, your mother wanted me to be a part of the board because I had a child in the school. Paul Rosen and I are the only two board members that have had children in the school. So it was important that she wanted us to have from a parental point of view. So that's what I do.
I know the next question kind of goes in, and it'll be a little redundant. You shared a little bit about your tasks and responsibilities, but just to share again, what kinds of roles do you have in all of the buildings?
Okay, I attend the CSE meetings, which is very important because ever since I was a parent, I think it's important that parents know that there's somebody there that not so much is on their side, but is there to advocate for them. So we tend to use a lot of acronyms and things like that. When I sit there and I'm looking at parents, I will sometimes stop and make sure that they understand what the acronyms are when we're talking about their child. So I think for me, I think that's the most important part of what I do when I sit in on those meetings, so that parents have a clear understanding of what is being said about their children and the services that their children are going to get.
Definitely. And besides providing the information that is so and the education to our families, just you being there and supporting them is so very, very important. And I know that all the families appreciate it. When not in the pandemic, now that we are in the pandemic, how have those things, have those roles and responsibilities changed?
Well, the CSCs I have not been a part of, but I am staying in touch with families. I'm working with the PTFA on the crisis fund. It's been more of phone calling and making sure that families know that we're there for them. So, but it's been hard because I am a hugger and I miss being involved with families. So that's the biggest thing that has impacted me with the pandemic.
And that kind of leads us into kind of the next question. You're absolutely right. It's been hard on us, and we've all had to adjust to a different kind of interaction, and we've tried our best to connect, to communicate. And this remote thing has been a learning curve for all of us. Anything else besides, we all want to be near each other and hugging and being near each other. Anything else has been a challenge in the remote world for you?
I guess part of when I'm calling, it's become very important that we need to have the latest information from families. Sometimes phones are disconnected. We have not been able to reach families. I find that very troubling for me. And not being able to, sometimes when I'm making phone calls in the building, I can go to the nurse and maybe she has another number that I can, but I haven't been able to do that. So there are some families that we have not been able to even make contact with because we don't have correct information, or numbers have been disconnected. So I find that very upsetting for me personally.
I share in that. I'm very concerned about that. Have you learned anything about yourself functioning in the remote world?
I have been brought into the 21st century.
Yes.
The Zoom. I love it. I love when we can at least see each other. But I have never been very technologically savvy. So I am very proud of, thank God for Jonathan, because I'm telling you, I don't know if I could have accomplished some of the stuff that I've had to do.
Oh, it's so
but
wonderful.
That's my biggest learning curve.
And Toya, I know you do so many things. When I see you, you're telling me about things that you're doing in the building, and then I'm amazed at things you're doing outside of the building.
Yes.
You know, supporting young ladies. You've told me about that. But now that we've kind of been at home and not venturing out too much, what are you doing at home to keep yourself busy when not working?
When I have a chance, I do. Often I go walking because I've been eating like a and I need to make sure that at least I get some exercise.
I've known you pretty much my entire life. You knew me as a little guy, so I've known how wonderful of a person you are, what a hard worker you are, and just to be around you. Your laugh, your smile is so infectious, so it's so wonderful. And people who have seen you in the building, our staff, our students, our families, they've seen that. But they may not know everything about you. So do you think that there's something the Tiegerman community doesn't know about you that you'd like to share with them?
I had just graduated from high school, and I had to convince my grandmother to even let me go because there was so much controversy about the march, and she thought that I would be in danger. But it was the most peaceful experience I'd ever had. And when Dr. King began to speak, even though I couldn't see him, I was so far away. You could hear a pin drop. It was, everybody was hanging on his every word. And as we were going back on the buses, everyone was so quiet and reflective. I never thought that I would be a part of history, but that was something that I will never forget. But now there's going to be another march in August, and I will be going.
Oh, Toya, thank you for sharing that, very enlightening and memorable, memory. And, it impacted, it had left such a tremendous impact on you, and something you'll always remember. But it really leaves a mark with me. And I remember this is not the first time I've heard this story. So I appreciate you sharing it, and I definitely wanted you to share with all of our families. The last thing that I wanted to ask you today, and then you could kind of go off and share a couple other thoughts if you'd like to. But we've seen, this is very, very important, okay? And this is, I want to make sure that all of our students who are watching and our families to know that, Tiegerman, we put out a statement a couple of weeks ago when everything was going on in the nation, and I put something in my State of the Union. This is not going to be a single kind of conversation. This is going to be a series of conversations. And that's why I want everyone to know that this is not the last time we're going to be talking about. We're doing this every single day, every week in our schools.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that families know that, if there's something that we discuss here, we're going to discuss it again. And if something we miss it here, we are definitely going to cover it, because this is not the one and only time. That's maybe what happened in the past, as far as we spent one day doing this and honoring this. This is going to be continuous. And I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear on that. But now that we get into that, now that I said that, we've seen the protests on our televisions. We've seen it in social media. We've seen it in our local communities. For our students, Mrs. Davis, and Jonathan, if you want to jump in here also, who might be worried or confused. I think about our students, and I think of their families too. What would you say to them about what's going on, trying to explain it?
Go first, I'll go.
I think this is going to be a turning point. This is very different from any other protests that have happened. And the young people are the ones that are going to be at the forefront of this. This particular tragedy, and it was murder. It impacted me like no other. I had tears in my eyes. I want families to understand that I don't condone the rioting, but I am for the protests. This is important. People need to be able to have a way to express themselves. I have been talking with families. We have a unique population. There are families that have children that may have interaction with the police, but the police are not trained. And it is a tragedy waiting to happen. When police come at some of our children, they yell. Children with autism don't respond well to that. So I think there's going to have to be dialogue to help families and the police on how to interact with special needs families. It is, I see this as very teachable moments. And like you said, I'm glad you said, this is not a one-time thing. This is going to be an ongoing thing. I think it's different at the elementary school,
Yes,
at the middle school, and especially at the high school. So we got to continue the dialogue. I would encourage everyone to Google Jane Elliott. She's the white woman teacher who started the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's an eye-opener.
Mm-hmm.
Until we can begin to speak openly about each of our experiences, this is not going to be settled. So thank you, Jeremy, Dr. T, the Tiegerman organization, for allowing me to be able to put this out and have this open dialogue.
And Toya, as you mentioned, and then we'll let Jonathan go if he wants to say anything. But you know,
Sure.
For our families that have been with us, they know that they've known the work that we do. They know about how inclusive and diverse our families are, the work that we do, which is always very, very good. And for our newer families, maybe they don't know enough about us. So it's important for them to hear about these things and to know what we stand for, what we stood for before, and what we will stand for going forward. And I just want to thank you, Toya. You've been a real mainstay in our community. You are in our educational community from the beginning, and you will continue to be. I know you're never retiring, so you'll be.
No. That's your mother.
Yeah.
Your mother. We both have birthdays coming up.
Yes.
And yours, I want to wish you a happy birthday.
You too.
A happy Father's Day.
You too, and to Arthur also. But thank you, Toy. But Jonathan, you are here, and you have. I've known you for since we were little guys, and you are a great young man. Very accomplished. We are so proud of you. You've done wonderful things. So you could definitely share with those who are watching. If you want to share a little bit about your growth or where you've come from, or you could just jump off with anything that Mom said. Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest problem that our country is facing now, even with the riots, which I don't condone, but I do understand. But for a long time, people have been trying in the best way that they can to responsibly talk to the police and saying that we're sick and tired of being seen as unequal. We're sick and tired of being seen as the enemy. And it has not helped that the leadership, whether it be in Washington or whether it be in New York at times or in other places, especially in the southern part of the United States, that they will always side with people that they feel they have something in common with, but never try to see the other side of the individual that is different from them. And the one unique thing that we've had here for a long time in the Tiegerman schools, that is something that will never fly here. Anytime that, I'm sure Mom has spoke to you about something happened several years ago about how she had to be in a room with a lot of people and make it incredibly clear that it is about the children first and foremost. The children and the reputation of that shield and that insignia that's outside of the elementary school in Glen, Cove, outside the middle school in Woodside, and outside the high school in Richmond Hill. Everything else, it doesn't matter. If you're not down with this, there's the door. You kindly let go. There'll be not a word said, and we'll move on. One person comes out, we bring another person in, and if that person confides to the rules, then that's someone that can be a foundational piece to how we move forward, instead of a simple rock and a simple distraction that just brings us down.
Well, Jonathan, you're absolutely right, and I appreciate your comments. So proud of you. Your mom is and your dad are so proud of you, all of your accomplishments. You've done such great things, and you've really been a role model, for our students. You've come back. You've shown them what hard work can do. And they're so proud of you, and they're really so happy about all of your accomplishments. The other thing that I would say is we've been very, very lucky. We have leadership. We have Dr. T. We have your mother. We have Dr. Ed. These are the flag bearers that, regardless of what the choppy waters or whatever's going out in the world, they don't waver. They continue moving forward, and they continue to stick to the plan and their ethics and their beliefs and their morals, and I'm just glad that we have leadership that we could follow. Sometimes leadership people just tag along because that's what leaders do, and sometimes you got to go in a different direction if that's what you don't believe in. But we're lucky to have such strong leadership and people with us from the beginning who have.
You forgot. I don't mean to be rude, but you forgot two important people.
Who else?
Teacher King and also Principal
Karen Katz.
Katzman.
That's right. So you're absolutely. So we have a plethora of leadership. We have them all over the place.
Of course.
But we are, Jonathan and Toya. Just to wrap it up, we are in good hands, and we will continue to have conversations. And if they are difficult, then so be it. But it's important to have communications and to be transparent about things and help educate others. And the other thing is this: the last thing that I want to leave with is, even though many of us have different experiences and may have different belief systems and stuff, the most important thing that unites us all is the love and the empathy. And we have that for our students, and we have that for our staff and for our families. So we will continue to do that because we're passionate about giving to our students and their families to make sure that they could do extraordinary things. That's always been the mission, and we will always do that. And we're very lucky to have you guys with us because you help make that mission go. So thank you both for your time. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. And
absolutely.
Wonderful weekend to everyone. Take care.
Right back at you, Jeremy. Be good with yourself, okay? We'll talk to each other soon.
Take care.